be a contest.
Philosophy of use on large fixed blade knives by Nutnfancy. Going back to 2008, maybe I missed it, but I did not see or read a lot of voices extolling the virtues of a knife like this. This is, of course, the highly recommended Ontario RTAC 2 big old survival knife. I just didn't see it. In fact, if I detected anything back then with my active forum participation, yep, I was in forums all the time back, I don't know, 07, 06, 05 time frame. I saw a big group think that a blade like this was foolish. That you were an idiot if you carried a blade like this out in the woods. A dummy. That you'd be better served by an axe. Yes, we'll talk about that. Maybe some other woods tools, but don't carry that. That, you know, you just have a Rambo complex or whatever. I'm not saying there weren't some voices out there extolling big blades, but if there were, I sure missed them. And that was one of my motivations, believe it or not, to start the Nutnfancy project, or TMP. And hey dudes, of course, this is Nutnfancy talking. And this is going to be my philosophy of use video, of course, on these large fixed blade knives, primarily for wilderness use. I'm going to talk about defensive capabilities too, a little bit. And the video is actually designed to save time for both you and me, because I have other large fixed blade knives, kind of like this excellent Ontario SP50 lurking in the background, coming up for review. So I said to myself, you know, do I want to roll in POU into that video and add 5, 7, maybe more minutes talking about it when it's somewhat repetitive, because all these knives kind of share it, right? The answer is no. Kind of like I did with my 1911 video, I break out the POU into its own video, I'll annotate it. If you're motivated, go watch the video. And here it is. I'm going to talk about it. Here's a few ground rules, of course. I don't mean this video to be controversial, but it probably will be with certain individuals, because they may not agree with my takes. They'll say, hey, that's not, you know, I don't believe that. I don't, you know, that's not how I do it. And I welcome disagreement in the Nutnfancy project. The thing I do not welcome, and if you go off the scale with it, is elitism. In other words, acting like your way is the only way, and that you're some god of the wilderness out there kicking butt, and that everybody else sucks. And more importantly, if you come in the comments and act like, well, Nutnfancy, you know, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, not welcomed. I mean, it's really not debatable as of 2011 the effectiveness of these knives. Because if you think so, you need to click on more of my videos, because I have hours upon hours of wilderness footage of me doing just that. Getting the jobs done, which I'm going to talk about maybe in this video, with a knife just like this. Getting it done. You know, going back to 2008 when everyone's like, it's probably earlier than that, and again, I don't mean to broad stroke and act like nobody was advocating or loving the big blades. There were lots of guys, but I'm saying overall that was a groupthink that was prevalent in many circles. You know, and I'd go out there, as I had been doing for a long time, you know, for 10 years, and using my large blade like this, just thumping on stuff, getting it done, minimizing work, calories, all the stuff I'm going to talk about in detail. And I'd scratch my head and go, am I missing something? I mean, because this is working for me in a very weight efficient manner. And pretty soon I was like, no, I don't think I'm missing something. They just work. If you get the right knife, it works. And so I happily, as I have often done in TMP, departed from the groupthink, which settles like a dark cloud over subject matter. Yeah, and then other people come to that groupthink in order to be accepted and cool. They adopt that groupthink without even knowing what they're talking about. Well, yeah, large blade knives suck. That's why they're trying to gain cool points in that forum or whatever. Nonsense. We don't do that in TMP. Yeah, wearing gloves. If you don't like it, stop watching the video. Thank you very much. Let's jump right into it. Philosophy of use. Oh yeah, I was talking about ground rules before I jump into that. So be respectful, please, to each other. Be cool. Disagreements are cool. Don't bring that forum nonsense to my comments. I don't like it. You know, be respectful of each other. With me, please. And again, if you differ, that's cool. And yes, I'm going to refer to axe use as we go, because oftentimes that will, not oftentimes, every time that comes up and goes, dude, you need to be using an axe. Well, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my experience to this point along those lines. And let me tell you something else. This is a snapshot in time. Here it is, 2011. 5 years from now, I may feel, I may feel something totally different or think something differently. I'm always learning. I'm always improving. If I find a better system, I will adopt that system. Let me repeat that. If I find a better system, I will adopt that system. I'm not going to hold on to the RTAC 2 and going, oh, this is so good because I spent money on it. I have to defend it always and lambast everybody else who criticizes my chosen way. Sound familiar? Yeah, me too. I see that all the time. All right, I'm talking first up, we're jumping into POU right now. I'm talking wilderness steel, baby. Okay, this is stuff that I like taking in the backwoods with me, primarily to get work done. Let me introduce the players, by the way. I already said this, RTAC 2, talking about 2008. This is one of the first knives I recommended, showed in use, and recommended to my TMPers. I've sold thousands for them probably through those videos. And I have yet to hear any meaningful criticism on the blade, especially when your value's considered. Here's a Sanmai 3 Cold Steel Trailmaster. I haven't thumped on this one yet. It's hard to thump on it because it's so expensive, right? Sure, I've thumped on my carbon steel one. By the way, it's off getting a sheath made. Stay tuned. And then the high value K-Bar Heavy Bowie, $50. Shut up. Reviewed, recommended, love it. And then I mentioned this Ontario spec-plus Gen 2 SP50. Great knife. That's wearing a subdued tiger stripe Duracoat pattern, as you can see, wearing extremely well after hard use, applied by missionspec.camo.com. Okay, introductions complete. Let me first set the stage. What do I use these knives for? My stage may be different than your stage. You get that? In other words, the way my climate, the weather that I have to put up with, how I use my blades may be different than yours. I mean, if I'm thrust down into the jungles of who knows where, is this the best knife? Probably not, because first off, the woods are different, the vegetation is different, and maybe I don't need a knife this big and heavy. I could get away with a machete. You with me? Firecraft becomes maybe less important. Okay, so my stage is a very high elevation western U.S. Backpacking environment. Okay, I want to stress that word, backpacking, that I am advocating a tool for use in a man-portable system. I'm just going to throw that out there as a terminology, another one in TMP. Man-portable, not riding a four-wheeler. I'm not pulling up to my campsite in my Jeep. I'm not sleeping in the backyard. I'm not at my cabin, with my chainsaw. I am backpacking, dude, just like I've shown in TMP, hauling it all up. And let me throw this out, too. I'm going to forestall perhaps some guys maybe not familiar with TMP. They may find this video and they'll go, and they'll hear some of my critiques about weight, and they'll say, well, dude, you're a puss. You need to man up. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm the best backpacker in the world, but I've yet to find anybody that can haul the weight I can haul and go where I go. And all the people I hike with, I'm not the fastest hiker, I'm not saying that, but I can haul 90 pounds of weight up a 10,000 foot peak. Been there, done it, lots. Ever since I was a young kid, I've been doing it. Maybe not 90 pounds, but for the last 2 decades, that's about what my packs weigh, about 90 pounds. Generally because I'm carrying all kinds of systems. Go watch my extended stay backpacking series if you're curious what that system, gotta get a drink, what that system is comprised of. Okay? Again, I'm not throwing it out there to say, oh, look at me, I'm a tough guy. I'm saying that I can take the weight, okay? But there's other things competing for that weight. First aid kit, water, food, fishing gear. Maybe I'm taking a pack raft. Maybe I need a tent. Maybe I'm in a large group. I'm carrying the level 2 first aid kit. All this stuff adds up rather quickly. I'm talking backpacking, man-portable system. That's very important to understand, because if we're not constrained by that, we're driving the Jeep up to the campsite. There's probably a whole bunch of different ways to process wood. And by the way, that's primarily what we're talking about here in Wilderness Blades. Processing wood. splitting logs in a large survival blade. You know, a dedicated maul, wood maul would be one way. Chainsaw, you know, a wedge, a hammer, yeah, all that. You ain't going to be carrying that up a 10,000 foot peak though, I can guarantee you. Okay, and anybody who says that they would, you know, pardon my French, they're talking out their ass. Yeah, internet warriors talking out their ass. You know, I'd love to strap a pack on them and you go backpacking with me and we'll see how you do. Again, I'm not saying all that, but I see a lot of guys talking that way. Well, I do this and I do that and I'm tough and I'm a badass and I can, you're not this. And I'm like, shut up. You're not. You're an internet warrior probably living in your mother's basement. Okay, again, dial into the many hours of video at this point. Laying it out there. Proof of concept in the Nutnfancy project. Okay, another aspect to my stage. Harsh weather. Okay, we're talking harsh weather. We're talking below zero, driven snow, sometimes up to 8 feet in depth. This is a very important concept to understand in my reviews, because when I'm talking about a large survival knife like the ones you see on the table, they excel in this environment. What about the axe, Nutnfancy? The axe excels much better than that, doesn't it? And Nutnfancy, you need to get more experience in the axe. You know, possibly. You know, I will tell you though, I have a fair amount of experience throwing, you know, axes around, splitting wood. Again, I can always get better. And yeah, there's many of them in the project right now. There's one right there, 20-inch Grand Force Brooks. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Great axe. Not a lightweight axe though, and it's only 20 inches. It's 36 ounces. Okay, and we're going to talk about weight a little bit. And here's a little mini one. Those are Wetterlings. This one's 25 ounces, more or less. I've shown some axe use in the Nutnfancy project, and I'm probably going to show more. And again, if I ever find something that, you know, contradicts what I'm saying, I'll adopt it. Probably make a video about it too. Here's a really nice one. Been thumping this big time. Cold Steel Trail Boss. What a great axe this is. High value. Hate that sheath on there. I'm going to have to redo it. Okay, so I've been throwing axes around, but let's get back to that deep snow. So you've drifted to 8 feet in depth in your snow. How are you going to use that axe? Well, Nutnfancy, you just don't know what you're doing. You need to do this, and you need to do that. Bull crap. I've taken group after group up there. I just did another series called Winter Scents Camp Out. Check it out. I talk about a lot of these things with the scouts that I'm out there with. And I offer it up. I have the axes right there. I was like, hey dudes, here's your axe. Here's your large blade survival knife. I've instructed them verbally how to use both. I don't bias them in any way. And I say, which one do you prefer to do? Some of them are Eagle Scouts already. 100% chose the large blade survival knife. One is because, again, 8 feet of snow, how are you going to get a solid base to split with that axe? Well, you know, dig down. Okay, calories. Let's throw that out there right now. You're going to be very calorie limited in the stage that I'm talking about. And I'm talking the wilderness. Backpacking to high elevations. When you get to where you're going, you're pretty much spent. And also, you already have degraded dexterity because you're fatigued. Another important concept to understand. So axe advocates, generally, in my experience, there's some variances. I know guys say, well, I pack an axe all the time. I have great success in it. By the way, this is an outstanding axe. Outstanding. I love it. Grand Force Brooks, razor sharp, good steel, good heat treat, all the things a good axe should have. But they'll say, I pack it and I use it with great success. And I know you do. I don't doubt it. A lot of the guys that I see commenting in the last 3 years, at least here in TMP though, are probably at their cabin, at their house, or they drove their vehicle in. And that's what they're saying. And they don't have 8 feet of snow to contend with. And I'm saying 8 feet. It might be 6 feet. It might be 5. It's still a huge amount of work to create a stable platform to use this. I want to split a log lengthwise. Okay, you need a stable platform. How are you going to do it? You're going to, well, you got to dig down to something firm, right? Or create a platform. Well, Nutnfancy just saw, you know, cut together a wooden platform and saw, that sounds great in theory. Again, there's a disconnect between reality and the internet. And I'm all about reality. The reality is it's going to be snow covered. That platform you've created, that log that you're splitting is going to go flying. Voice of experience. It's just going to go bye-bye. What are you going to do? Have some dude hold it for you? No, you're swinging this head down, splitting it. Yes, this will split medium-sized logs if you're really lucky. But you need a solid platform so you don't lose energy, so you can have an accurate strike, and that gets to the dexterity needed for an axe. I remember I posted a video a couple years ago, and guys are like, well, your technique sucks. You don't know how to use an axe. Well, number one, I think I do know how to use an axe quite effectively, judging from the way I can cut with it. Probably not the best axeman out there. I'm sure there's more better, but you kind of prove my point if you weigh in with that criticism. Your technique sucks? Okay, so you're saying there is a special technique, there's special dexterity required to use an axe. Not so with a large fixed blade knife. Suck it. It's not. All I got to do is put this sucker in a log, get a baton of appropriate size and weight, and start hammering it through. I'm not swinging the steel. I'm talking about splitting logs, not cross-cutting or chopping. That's kind of a different thing. And I do believe, by the way, while I'm on that subject, that is a waste of energy, even with a very large blade. And I've said that 100 times in TMP. You're better served with a very awesome saw like the Sawviver. By the way, sold thousands of those too. Going with you, something lightweight to cross-cut. That's a very high energy task if you're doing it with a knife or an axe. Don't do it. But if you say I need a special technique from this, you prove my point. And by the way, you might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. But and then guys roll in, well, you have the wrong axe for the job. You know, it just gets funnier because they dig themselves in a hole. Well, you might need, you know, a different axe when you cross-cut. Then you need a different axe when you split. You were trying to split. In that one video I posted, the guy's like, well, you're trying to split the log with a splitting axe, jackass. No, duh. That's because I'm trying to see if the concept works. Can that splitting axe, not this one, it was a Gerber splitting axe, can it work in both functions, cross-cutting and splitting? I can't carry two axes. Remember, I'm backpacking, dudes. See where I'm going? It's funny. It's entertaining to me. You know, well, you need a special axe. Well, I don't need a special survival knife. Any one of these knives on the table will get the job done. Splitting up to a 10-inch log. What? Shown it on camera. Dozens of times. RTAC 2, going to work. Put it in there, slam it. I love the guys too. They go, well, that's not an appropriate use for a knife. I say, I'm sorry, but man, I've heard it so many years. I just say, shut up. Are you kidding me? Are you really serious when you say that a large bladed survival knife is not, you know, that's not an appropriate use to baton through a log? I don't care what the log is. I say the knife should take it. It's steel versus wood. I'm using a wooden baton. I'm batoning wood. It should win. It shouldn't fail. Hence why I review what I review. Why I recommend like these knives. They should be able to take it. Won't mean they won't fail 100%. It doesn't mean this won't fail. Okay, I have axes where the heads are loose already. Very little use and the heads are coming loose. Anything can fail, anything can break. That's the nature of the business. That's how it works. Special techniques, special axes, you don't need that with a survival knife. And talking about, well, hang on just a sec. Let me say this, is that when you baton, what I'm saying special technique is you don't have to do it in a very specific way. Granted, we're putting pressure on the handle. We're pushing down on the handle as we bang the tip with a baton. To me, that's not a special technique. It's pretty simple. And you'll learn just by experience if you're doing it wrong because you won't be able to baton effectively. Okay? Getting back to that 8 foot of snow though. Okay, I can build a platform for these. Okay, so I build a platform just like I did in Winter Sense with the boys out there. Okay, platform's there, resting on the deep snow. Then I can put my log, holding the log. Maybe a team's working together. We're not swinging the steel. It's resting statically within the log. I can baton the log through, split it. Much safer. And as you saw me say in Winter Sense, it's not that there isn't, safety considerations. There are. Anytime you're working with steel, axes, or knives, huge safety considerations. I talk about that a lot. Let me hit on this. I mentioned it already, but I want to drive it home. Limited calories. Well, Nutnfancy, dig down to the ground, and get that solid ground, then you can use your axe really good. You can lay it, you can lay the log on its side, split it, and then you can put a wedge in, drive the wedge. There's all kinds of great techniques. You're just not using an axe properly. Okay, may be true. I'm not going to say it isn't. You're still talking about a lot of calories there. Okay, and generally guys that are saying this, maybe they've gotten out in their own environments, but it doesn't seem like they've ever gotten out in my environment. I can pretty much guarantee you they would change the way they're thinking if they went on a Nutnfancy backpacking trip. No, we wouldn't. Oh, yes, you would. I throw 70 pounds on your back, we hike in 7 miles, then I say, okay, go ahead and use your technique. Hey, where's your axe, by the way? Well, you know, it was too heavy. I left it at trailside about 5 miles ago. Yeah, I figured. That's reality right there. All right, time limited. When we get up there, I'm talking not the video, that too, but I'm talking about once we get up to our wilderness location. Remember, we're tired, we're spent, we have hiked in, we're not fresh off the ATV. Usually darkness setting in. We want to get the camp built, and I don't know if you caught that in Winter Sense. Did you see those boys that, you know, they're all, full of bravado, bragging, all cocky at the beginning of the hike? I've seen this 100 times. And then once we get up there, the weather is going to crap. It's getting really cold. They get serious really quick. Kind of scared, actually. Everybody does. It's not familiar with the woods. And they go, oh, crap, we kind of need some heat. We need a fire. We need shelter. Yes, you do. Now they're in a learning mode. I can teach them how to use stuff like this. Okay, but it's time limited. Well, I say that because maybe going back to the axe, guys will say, well, you should do this special technique, create a wedge. You can split a log lengthwise with a wedge. Yeah, you can. You could split it open, use this as a hammer, drive in wooden wedges that I've carved. Doing that on 8 feet of snow again, extremely difficult. Doable. Most things are doable if you have enough time and energy. I don't want to spend that energy. I don't know about you. Also, I want to say this too. Philosophy of use for a large survival knife like this one. Let me pick another one up. How about the K-Bar Heavy Bowie? It's not appropriate for all tasks. And I'm not going to say that it is in this philosophy of use video. There's a lot of tasks that this is completely the wrong choice for. I wouldn't want to skin a deer with this. An elk. Could you? Yeah, you could. Absolutely. Choke up on the blade. Yeah, you could do it. You could wrap duct tape on this portion right here. Wrap it with a natural material and just use this tip when you're caping. Doable. Not ideal. We're talking about, Ron Hood there, the buck hoodlum, another awesome large blade fixed knife, and he's talking about the Indian technique of tucking the blade under your arm and having it upside down, and then you have a cutting surface for fine detail work. Another great technique. He taught me something there. I never heard of that. That's way cool. But let's be real, not perfect for every cutting task. But guess what? I don't just go up there with this knife as the only blade. I'm generally taking a pocket knife, like the Victorinox Cadet, seen 1,000 times in TMP, and probably a lightweight camp knife, kind of like the Cold Steel Roach Belly. What do I have near the table here? Maybe this one. The Finn Wolf, another Cold Steel option, weighs next to nothing. So I would food process with this, do all my camp tasks with this. This is my woods processing tool, my shelter craft tool. Why do they have to be so big, Nutnfancy? Because it minimizes work. Getting back to calorie expenditure. I always laugh when I see guys with their small little knives dicking around up there, to include Bear Grylls and his knife. See him up there, that little blade, I'm like, what in the freak? Are you kidding me? I mean, you can take a little small blade. What else do I have here? Here's a Cold Steel SRK in San Mai 3. Yes, it's a veritable collage of steel here in the Nutnfancy bunker. Great knife. Love the SRK. Great soldier blade. Love it. How am I going to baton through a tree with this? Well, you can hammer it through. Get your baton and hammer it and just take chips at it. We chip, chip, chip. Chip, chip, chip. More chipping, chipping, chipping. Timber, it falls down. Guys are doing this on the survival shows all the time with their tiny little survival knife. Not tiny, mid-sized. Totally works. But again, time and calorie expenditure. These are faster. There's good weight and there's bad weight. Bad weight would be an iPod. Good weight would be a large chunk of steel that's going to minimize my work when I get there. Also, something in philosophy of use we need to consider is propensity of use. how likely are you to use this big blade? If I go out on a day hike, I'm not necessarily taking these knives with me. I'm not going to say they're lightweight. They're not. I mean, the lightest on the table is 22 ounces, and that's the Cold Steel Trailmaster. Our TAC 2 is 30.5 with its stock sheath. SP50, really size and weight efficient for what it can do, 23.2 ounces. And, oh, I have a Marine Raider around here somewhere. I don't know where it went. Oh, it's out of reach. The Marine Raider, also an awesome knife, SP10, 27 ounces. K-bar Bowie. Not super lightweight, but again, pretty light for what it can do. If I don't think I'm going to be using this steel, I'll be carrying a mid-sized knife. Something bigger than this, maybe just a regular K-bar combat knife. So what I'm saying is that you don't need a large blade every time you go out. It just depends. If I know I'm going to be doing, fire making, it's going to be cold, the conditions are going to be serious. These are coming along. If I'm not carrying them, someone else is. Hopefully they're younger and stronger than me. Here, dude, you carry the steel. And by the way, I generally go too deep. If we're out a ways, I mean, like it's remote and we really, really, really need a fire, I'm going to carry 2 blades like this. If this one breaks, I got another one. Too deep. Too deep. Serious. Again, to finish that last talking point up, they're not serving alone, these blades. They're paired up with very lightweight, more suitable knives depending on the task. Okay? Axes are great. Don't misread me, misunderstand me. These have limitations. These have limitations. One of the biggest limitations on the axe is the weight. Okay? Guys will say, well, they're not that heavy. Well, for me to get, how am I going to say this? For me to carry an axe that can do what this knife can do, I don't know why I can't speak, or any of these knives can do, maybe these two especially, it's going to have to be rather heavy. This one probably could do it. Maybe it couldn't though. I mean, can you, with one strike, split a 10-inch log with this axe? I doubt it. You're probably going to get the head stuck. Well, Nutnfancy, you don't go right down the center of it. You plank it off on the side. Well, yeah, I know that. Been there, done it. Doable. Still get the axe head stuck. Speaking from experience. It's constant. It happens all the time. Doesn't depend on your axe. Well, you need to go with smaller logs. Again, they'll just never relent. It'll be just one other thing after another. Well, calorie, time, energy expense, it's all that. If I go with a larger log, let's just say it's 8 inches in diameter, number one, I know that log is going to be dry in the middle because it's snowing and raining and has been for weeks where I'm at. Again, getting to the environment which I'm talking about. I know it's going to be dry there. That's the whole reason I process that wood, to get to the dry wood. Well, I'm talking about fire making. Shelter craft, different. Okay, so if I go with a smaller log, then I have less dry wood and it's more work because I cross-cut that saw, split it, burns up quickly. I'm better off going ahead and maybe processing a little bit larger. Your mileage may vary. I'm probably forgetting some stuff. The axe. Love the axe, but yeah, there are some limitations. You might need a special axe, just like you talked about. It needs accuracy. It needs to be sharp, really sharp. And sometimes they're harder to sharpen than a knife. Okay. Excuse me. Needs special stability platforms. Again, we're talking deep snow, dudes. Enough of the wilderness stuff. I forgot some stuff. I'm going to broad stroke it with that, though. Limitations on this, too, is they can break. They're not always 100%. You can cut your finger off with these things, especially if you're cross-cutting. Anytime you're swinging steel out there, dangerous. Be careful. Be careful. Philosophy of use, large fixed blade knives. How about as a weapon? What? Again, this is probably a controversial subject, but in my past fixed blade reviews, I address this because it's realistic. I think they're outstanding weapons, especially when they're fitted with a cross guard like this, that can prevent your hand going forward if you thrust cut with it. Oh, Nutnfancy, those are awful weapons. Oh, really? Are you telling me that if... Well, let me say this too. I'm not an advocate of knife fighting. I just am not. I think you're going to get cut badly if you ever go up against two guys with blades. I don't care what your techniques are. I think they're best served as a surprise weapon. Last ditch, you have no other options. You cannot escape. That's always where I've come from. And in that philosophy of use, these knives are amazing, deadly. Would you rather have, I don't know, just because it's handy, 150-20 Benchmade? Which of these knives would you rather go? If you're doing that, you're defending your life, which one do you want? Well, I want this one because it's faster, Nutnfancy. Come on. Okay, I'll admit that it comes to the point of diminishing returns. That you get your knife so heavy, not that this is a lightweight, and you can't maneuver it very quickly. I'm not a knife fighting expert, probably never will be. But reach is huge. I don't think it, and then suddenly technique becomes less of a player if I have reach. See that? Twice, more than twice the reach. Huge. So yeah, diminishing returns of speed, but I'll go for the reach in that philosophy of use which I designated. And how about this? If you're working with a two-footed bad guy, like there's any others, well, I'm talking versus like a bear or some other dangerous game. That's hilarious. If you're going up a bad dude, how about intimidation? How about we never have to use our weapon? We brandish, say, hey dude, why don't you go to another campsite? Thank you very much. Okay, we're just not having it here. You follow what I'm saying, dude? You don't? You don't follow what I'm saying? Well, why don't you look down and see what I'm holding, because I'm dead serious. Do not progress any further. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to be a really stupid individual to progress. Yeah, I'd rather have a gun too. I know what you're thinking, but I'm talking, this is all you have. Intimidating. Intimidating. Also, I'm going to just end it with this. Any connection with a knife of this size and mass, if it's wielded with any level of competency, generally, it's going to be devastating. Thrust cut, devastating. You know, you swing, connect with any part of exposed pink flesh, devastating. Fingers come off, hands come off, wrists come off, arms come off. Don't mean to be graphic, I'm just being real. Philosophy of use of a large blade knife like this, of this mass, this one's a 1/4 inch thick, razor sharp. Devastating. Devastating. I'd run the other way. You're right. I think I'll go to the next campsite. In fact, I think I'm going to go back and get a life coach and reevaluate my life altogether. Have a good night, sir. Yeah, maybe that'd be the best way to go. Okay, against a 4-legged variety of dangerous creature, yeah, I would like a knife like this. Nasty. Now, there's going to be variances on how well a knife will pierce cut. I'll address that in the tabletop reviews. You know, the drop point, is it the best pierce cutter ever? Or thrust cut, or whatever you want to call it. Does pretty good in my experience. You don't need a dagger. I like the belly. Slash cutting is huge. Yeah, you know, huge blade for penetration. Yeah, so it's a double duty knife. Wilderness craft. Making fires, making shelters. Digging if you have to. I don't want to dig with my knife either. By the way, I've done it with this just to test a dirt coat. Totally worked. Nice. Me and Crockett 20 did it. Yeah, multi-purpose survival tool. Highly recommended. I'll tell you now, as of 2011, I see a lot of voices extolling the virtues of big blades. Yeah, I didn't see many back 2008 when I started talking about them. I see them all over the place now, and I think that's a good thing, because we're realizing their very useful purposes up in the environments I'm talking about. They are not suited for every task. And depending on where you live, how you get out, if you get out into the woods, they may not be suitable for you at all. They may be just extra weight you'll never use. Nor can you justify in carrying, especially backpack style. Finally, philosophy of use. Collectability. They're just cool. They're cool to have. Large blades are fun to fondle. They're fun to hold. They impress your other knife-loving buddies when they come over, and that is an entirely appropriate and valid philosophy of use. You never intend to get out and split a log, build a lean-to, dig with it, kill a bear, whatever. You like it. It's just collectible. It's impressive. Why do you think Bowie knives are so impressive, especially the ones that copy the patterns from the 1800s and earlier? There's a huge following of guys that love them. I still love a large Bowie knife. You kidding me? Like that Cold Steel Natchez Bowie. That thing is insane. My favorite Bowie knife of all time. The Cold Steel Natchez Bowie. Something wicked this way comes. There's a review right there. Check it out. Gosh, that thing's insane. But do I ever intend of carrying that Cold Steel Natchez Bowie as a defensive knife? No, to be honest, I don't. Too big, too heavy. Yes, diminishing returns have probably been reached with that. It's a hand sword, but I sure enjoy fondling it, looking at it. Great blade. All right, there you have it. That is the Nutnfancy philosophy of use on large fixed blade knives, subject to change with my own experience with learning, progressing, but most of it is founded in pretty proven philosophy as of yet, proven in many hours of video here in the Nutnfancy project. Thanks for being cool with each other in the comments and elsewhere in life. We learn from each other. Thanks for the support, Nutnfancy.